Hello, friends. Starting today, I'm probably going to do about 6 or maybe 9 sessions. We're going to be talking of startups and entrepreneurs. Basically, it's the same thing. Traditionally, entrepreneurs, or even today, when we talk of an entrepreneur, we talk of somebody who's starting a business in a not so new format. Startups, on the other hand, are people who have come up with some brainware, some great idea, either for a product or a service, and they start working on it, developing it. An entrepreneur may not always develop something, but a startup generally does. These sessions are at the special request of many. When I say many, I'm talking of more than 50 young boys who are all actually in the startup space. The reason why I'm also mentioning entrepreneurs in this talk is because the conditions and what they're going to go through, what they have to be careful about, what to expect is more or less the same. These 50 odd students from my Alma Mater in Mumbai, whom I have been mentoring for a long time, have been hearing the talks over the last couple of months and felt that if I can do a series of talks on startups, I have done talks for them on startups, on startup life, etc. But this, they wanted a comprehensive, right from the beginning to, so to say, going up to the stage of funding, and even then after that on how their investors can get out making a good profit. So today is the first of the session. And today I'm going to basically talk of what an entrepreneur or a person who starts a startup should be careful about, should think about, and should put into practice some of the things. So let's get to it right away. And friends, I hope this is helpful to you. I hope this is a good beginning for the next few sessions that we are going to be doing. What drives an entrepreneur? That's the first part of it. Okay. And primarily from my experience of talking to various entrepreneurs and so many people who have startups on their own. In fact, what I'm doing right now is also a startup of my own. Though I'm in a little different boat than them. I'm all white beard, white hair, or little hair that is there. But they are all these people that I'm talking of are young. Some of them just out of college, maybe a year or two, and who have never worked in a corporate, so to say. So for them, this thing is an extremely new experience. And that's the beauty of it, is that they come out with their own methods of how they're going to do and address things. So one of the first advantages and one of the first reasons why people become entrepreneurs or start startups is that they are their own boss. This is one thing that is common to literally everyone that I have talked to or mentored over the past many years. And the second more important thing, and this is a deep insight, and I'm very, very happy that these youngsters have this insight, is that it is an opportunity for them to prove their worth, not only to the world, but more importantly, to themselves. They want to prove to themselves that they are worthy and capable of doing this. And from the various feedbacks I have been getting, one of the things that has constantly come up is that for them, the fascinating thing about doing a startup or becoming an entrepreneur is that they're constantly learning. They constantly have to adapt to changes, and they're constantly innovating. Whether it is in the product, whether it is in the service they're offering, whether it is how to market, whether it is how to position yourself, whether it is how to tap customers, they are constantly innovating, learning, and adapting. And in the process of doing so, they are constantly projecting themselves as someone who has passion, someone who is brave. It takes a lot of bravery to do a startup or become an entrepreneur. They have integrity, an essential part, and they have very strong work ethics. So these are generally the feedback. These are points that I have noted down from the feedback I have received and from the various conversations I have had with various people whom I have been mentoring. But, and I have spoken to them about this individually, not necessarily as a group, one-on-one. I'm just listing down all the points that I have discussed with them very often. And there are a lot of challenges in taking up such a job, so to say. First thing, and the most important thing, is that there is no work-life balance. And if anybody tells you that there is work-life balance or it is possible, especially during the initial stages of a startup, trust me, I will go ahead and say that that person is not telling you the truth. People very often, I have seen many successful entrepreneurs or startups that have become unicorn, who after becoming a unicorn are telling you that, oh, please make sure that you maintain work-life balance. And every one of those, there are, well, not too many, there are just 4 people I have quizzed on this. And I asked them that in the first 2 years of your startup, what was your work-life balance and how did you manage it? And they have all 4 said that they couldn't manage it at that time, that in the initial stages, that is just not possible. So remember this. There is no work-life balance when you're starting a startup. And you have to prepare yourself for really high levels of stress, anxiety, and maybe occasional depression. You are constantly burnt out. In fact, there will be times when you will get panic attacks. And you will be missing a lot of social activity. Yeah, you will miss the avoidable ones, you will miss the insignificant ones, but where it is critical for you to be present, you will make it a point to attend. Though your mind may well be at work, but you're going to miss out on a lot of social activity. And worst of all, you're going to alienate your loved ones, whether it's your parents, whether it's your siblings, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your children, depending on what stage of life you are. The amount of time you're going to give to just your baby, so to say, the startup, you're going to alienate all of these people. They will feel second-hand citizens in your life. But that's a part of the game. As far as work is concerned, also there are tremendous challenges. And one of the most predominant challenges I have seen with all the people I mentor and all the startups that I work with is the constant stress of finding customers or users for whatever it is you are developing. And there is no magic potion here. There is nothing where you can say abracadabra and you get 5 customers or 10 customers or 100 customers. It takes a lot of hard work over months. It's not something that is done in a day or 2. And you will have to constantly strategize, keep adapting your strategy and approaches on how to get them. You will be constantly working maybe 90 hours a week, 100 hours a week. I don't know how much, sometimes maybe even 120 hours a week. Okay, so you will be constantly working that. And yet, the unfortunate part is that after putting in those 90 hours, you will still feel that you have so much unfinished work. Why the hell am I going to sleep, or why the hell am I going home? I'm not talking of social activity here. So, challenges. A startup or a new entrepreneur business requires a lot of hard work, requires all of your time, requires an astounding amount of commitment, and it requires, I'd love to say some, but it requires a lot of sacrifices. So let me give you my example. As I said, what I'm doing right now is a startup. I was on a holiday last 2 weeks. I was in Japan, came back late in the night or rather early morning on Saturday. And at that day, because I could not fulfill my Friday upload as promised, I had to sit down, in spite of being jet lagged and sleepy, record and upload the session. That's the kind of work, that's the kind of stress, that's the kind of time you will have to put in. And that's the kind of passion and dedication that you need. I'm patting myself on the back, but that's the way it is. Okay. And knowing all this, please, when you start a startup, make sure that you set your expectations accordingly and that you are prepared for what is coming ahead. Some other challenges which really are going to affect you in a big way is the loss, if you had been working before, or the lack, if you never worked before, of a regular income. Normally one expects that, okay, I've graduated, I'm going to make some money, and I'm going to maybe support my family, I'm going to do various things. With a startup, you don't have that luxury. You will have constant financial stress in managing the business. You are going to be permanently short of money. Okay, you will need to work hard, very hard, and then you will need to work harder. And after that, you will still need to work harder. So there is no choice except to keep working. And all this can be very lonely and mentally challenging. So you have to be prepared for this. So you need to be prepared to put in a lot of physical, mental, and emotional effort. And I can give you examples. Like I'm sure you've all heard the story how Jeff Bezos, when he started Amazon, for the longest time, for something like 8 to 10 months after he started, he used to be there at work late in the night, sitting and packing and shipping the books. At that time, it was only books that Amazon was selling, and shipping the books himself. He couldn't afford to have somebody to help him. Or we heard the stories of how Elon Musk used to sleep in his factory. Maybe he was doing it more to show people that he's very dedicated, but all the same, he was doing it. But remember that doing a startup, starting a business of your own, is always high risk, but at the same time, highly rewarding. And that's the best part of it. You are going to have your adrenaline running all the time. And this is a very uncertain line of work. As I said, high risk, high reward. Therefore, it is uncertain line of work. And statistics show that only 50% of the businesses that start actually go on to live beyond 5 years. Maybe it is lesser than that, I'm not sure. But this is what I have read some time back. And when you're in this kind of a situation, you risk poverty. There's a good chance that everything you invest in your business can go flat, can fall flat. And therefore you risk poverty. But the advantage here, the upside, is that the potentially possible outcome of this, of a successful startup, far outweighs the risk and the investment that you make. Okay. And that risk can be lowered significantly by making sane, pragmatic plans on how to go about your business. And because of this financial situation, it is always advisable to have a support system, a family support, or a spouse who is working, or some other friends of this thing you can fall back on, especially when you need those essential expenses. And this becomes even more important if you are old, if you're doing a startup after retiring, okay, where you might have some money, but not really enough money, or the money that you have, you're putting into the startup. And therefore, what is happening at the end of the day, at that age, you might need medical help at any time. Okay, and you have no insurance because you have stopped working, you're retired. So it becomes very difficult. So beware of all this, be aware of this, and plan for this. and make sure that you have created backup sessions. One important point I'd like to make here about the work aspect, which I've seen personally in the case of 2 or 3 of the startups that I have worked with, be aware of the tech giants. Very often we'll get an NDA signed and go and talk to somebody who is huge, hoping that he will buy into you or he will promote your product. But these tech giants are no saints. In all the 3 cases that I am referring to, those tech giants picked up the project completely, or in one case, they just picked up the things that were really different that that person was doing in that space. And they have the resources, they have the money, they have everything, they have the power to create, develop these things far faster than you and launch it before you. So you are losing even before you launch. That's a big challenge. Okay. There are other things that I want to talk about, which I'm going to talk about, continue this session in the next episode. And please send in your feedback on this few points that I have raised. In the next few episodes, what we will talk about is the tips to be a successful entrepreneur, and whether at the end of the day, having a partner, a co-founder, if you're a startup, is going to be helpful. So we'll talk about this day after tomorrow. In the meantime, have a great evening. Think about what I've said. But to become an entrepreneur, you don't have to get employed unless you just want a 9-to-5 life. You are not going to get a 9-to-5 life for a long time once you start your startup or become an entrepreneur. So keep that in mind. Okay. Do send in your feedback. Do like the pages of Thought Shots on LinkedIn and this thing. By the way, I have to tell you, I've crossed the 2,000 mark of followers on LinkedIn. And I thank you all for your support. Okay. So have a great evening. Enjoy the talk. Maybe listen to it again and send in your comments. Thank you so much.